Michael, we're going to start by saying we're going to speak in English, even though you speak fluent Arabic, even though you're born here, you've been to the Middle East, you understand Arabic, all the community around you is Lebanese and Syrian and from all the Arab world. And you definitely can speak Arabic and we can do it in Arabic. But for a wider audience and to reach all the audience we want, I would love to have it in English. So everyone around us in the Middle East and in the States would know the great things you're doing and how can we reach more people, showing them our culture through music, even though they're not from our region, and showing them that yes, we Middle Eastern do not only play one instrument and do not do tabla all day long. We can create masterpieces exactly like big philharmonic orchestras have done. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful.
Tell me about you. Let's start from the beginnings. Where are you from? What's your name? Who are your parents? How did you come up? How did you end up in the States?
Well, my name is Michael Ibrahim. My parents are from a small little village next to Tartus from Syria, and I was born in the States. So my entire upbringing has been in Michigan and Sterling Heights, and back then it was like we were the rare family. It wasn't full of Arabs. It wasn't until the Iraq War that you started to see the Chaldean population come out to that part of town. So, born and raised there, went to Syria like twice, and it wasn't until like the second trip I came back, and then I started to really get into the culture. I learned how to read and write when I stayed there, and then I started to study oud. And from there, life kind of took its turns.
How did music start in the family?
Nobody really took music as a profession, but there was a like, and there كان في قابلية يعني. So my dad had this oud, and I still remember it was like this really nicely decorated oud. One of his aunts got it for him as a gift, and he would just every once in a while he would just take it out and just start strumming. His tongue would be out outside, and just start playing. He had a little pinky with the nail. And I would remember, I'd just sit right in front of him and watch. And I can remember the smell, ريحة الغري تبع العود, the smell of the finishing. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. And that coupled with, we had a priest in the family. He's my dad's aunt's husband. He was like a grandfather figure for us. And I still can remember his voice, the way he would speak, his accent, المخرج الحروف, the way he would ornament the phrases. So from that, the mix between my dad and then the church, the Eastern sound was kind of planted in me. And when we came back, after that year-long stint in Syria, that's when I started to study oud with Sarweh. And I got into music, and from there I just kept following a path. I didn't know where it was going, but I'm here now.
So is oud part of the initial steps further into the Arabic music, so you need to start somewhere, and probably oud is one of them?
Yeah, that was the instrument that I started with.
Then someone start with something else?
Yeah, they could start with qanun, they could start with nay, they could start with violin, and if you're in the States and you do violin, you have access to both worlds. So the capacity is much greater to be able to get into Arab music in the States than it was when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So there's so many resources out now, and then you have institutions like the National Arab Orchestra, Simon Shaheen's Arab Music Retreat, that give you opportunities to be able to actually learn and study and تغمق شوي يعني تفوت بالجو.
When someone tells you Arabic music, what is it for you? Is it singing? Is it music? Is it tabla? Is it festive music? How do you perceive Arabic music?
The most simplest term I can use, or the most simplest explanation, is any music that comes out of the Arab world. Arab culture is diverse. It has many different layers and many different factions, and we don't talk enough about that. We kind of like to clump everything into this one little ball and say this is what it is, but we are so diverse and we have such a colored history that it's what makes us beautiful. So anything that comes out of the Arab world, whether it's religious, non-religious, classical, contemporary, cultural, folkloric, or even pop, all of that is part of this giant conglomerate that I call Arab music.
To be able to be part of the Arab music, should it have one specific instrument that needs to be in, or how would you listen to something and say, this is Arabic?
There's a few components. أول شيء, the focus on maqamat. Okay? We treat music differently than our Western counterparts do. So it's very melodically centric. Okay? Also, there's this, the melodies and the way they're built is different. So those two things alone give it its flavor. Now, we're melody-based people. Everything we do has melody. There's something that you can recognize and you can sing it and hum it back. And that's why a lot of people in the West will take our stuff and sample it in their own works. Because you have these themes, little themes of music that are just part of a larger melody, but you know? So you have that. I mean, we can get into the specifics, microtones and the instruments and all that, but there's a certain life force in our music, and it comes out in our culture. We're a communal people. We share our food, we share our culture with those around us. Same thing with music. A performer sits on stage, the audience member has to be engaged with them. Because if they're not going to put, the performers are going to put everything in there. That's why people see videos of me on the orchestra and I'm clapping and but it's for a reason. I want to pull people into what we're doing. I want them to get into الجو, and because that's part of the aesthetics of who we are. And the platform I like to do with my work is I like to show our culture through music, and it's not just the words we use, but the actual way we go about taking part in that cultural experience.
You just said is work. So what is your work lately, and how did you go from a oud player to the great work you're doing now?
I'm the founder and director of the National Arab Orchestra. I've been doing it for 15 years. We've been building this nonprofit, and now we have concerts across the United States, chapters in San Antonio and in Houston, Texas, aside from our home base in Detroit. We have educational programs that provide many different functions for the community, and we're basically a platform to create a more consolidated voice for the Arab Americans in this country. Because right now, everybody's in their own little corner, and it's unfortunately it's still segregated through either religious or political means. And we like to bring people together, or at least I like to do that, because I don't like to have anything that keeps me away from my brother. And my brother is anybody that's from that part of the world. That's the way I see it. I have a connection to my Arab identity, and I like to see our people come together. So I like to do that through music, and that's really what one of the things that I find to be the central work of the orchestra, aside from preserving the culture and the heritage that we have through music.
Amazing. Back to we have many ways of learning our Arabic. Some are at church, some are at the mosque, some are at schools. And you have a different way and different approach on integrating Arabic language into the young community.
So, like you said it, right now, if you want your kids to learn, you got to send them to one of those places that kind of segregates. So right off the bat, you're building a generation that recognizes differences rather than things that bring us together. So what we do is we'll go into schools, Some of them with Arab American students, some of them with no Arab students whatsoever. And we'll teach them how to sing a song in Arabic. That's simple. I've gone into schools in Detroit where it's primarily African American, and we've taught them how to sing يلي زرعت البرتقال لعبد الوهاب or لما بدا يتثنى. You know? And I go into schools in Dearborn, Michigan where it's mainly Lebanese, Yemeni, and Syrian immigrant kids, and they learn how to sing something for Fairuz. Even though اللغة تبعهم is not as strong as their parents, but at least they get a chance to partake in that culture outside of the guise of a message-based scenario. This is strictly culture. This is who we are. This is our history. This is our art. And our art is reflective of us as a people. And when you give kids that kind of experience, it leaves an impression on them. And for me, that creates the hope of creating another generation that rather sees what binds us rather than what keeps us apart.
Beautiful. Tell me more about the orchestra and numbers. How many are you? How did you grow it up to become what it is? And we've seen some videos on YouTube. 500,000 subscribers. We invite everyone to subscribe today. Tell me more about the orchestra. Did it start with 1, 2, and how did it grow to become what it is today?
So it started off as a small student group at the University of Michigan. I held auditions, and I'm still in contact with many of the first people that were in there, and it was mostly non-Arab. Okay, so I had like 2 American, I don't like to say white people because it sounds
This is how they call it.
Hey, but we had those. I had a bass player that I went to high school with. She joined in. I had a half Lebanese, half Indonesian percussionist and oud player. I had an Indian riq player. And then from there, we had our first concert. It started to grow. More interest came. The orchestra or the ensemble started to double in size. And that's when I started the nonprofit. I remember like taking $2,500 from my dad and starting it when I could have just done it for like $50. I didn't know back then. Somebody's like, yeah, I'll do it for you. How much? I did it. But then from there it grew. And we started to build. The ensemble's made up of primarily non-Arab musicians, all of them who've had time at the Arabic music retreat, studying with Simon Shaheen or being within that atmosphere of Arab music. And I met them kind of like on the way. You know, I would go to the Arab music retreat with Simon, and I would meet these musicians, and then I'd have them come along. And now we are 35 strong for the orchestra, and then we have a second ensemble, which is the Techt ensemble, the traditional chamber ensemble for Arab music. And we had a community choir come in, and that's where we are now.
How many concerts do you do per year?
Per year in the States, about anywhere between 6 to 12, 15 concerts. حسب الأوضاع. Unfortunately, we're still a little bit beholden in the States. Whenever something happens in the Middle East, it really shakes the diaspora to its core. And when that happens, the arts take a toll. You know, they take a hit in that.
What's the orchestra's aim or dream in 5 years?
5 years? We want to be a fully funded institution that has these musicians on payroll so that we can have complete programming. And then the next step after that would be to start an institution where we have a place for people who want to study and actually take in Arab music as a career in the States. So they would come in, they would learn, study, and there'd be some kind of official track for them to be able to learn and do this work.
You're doing something great called promoting Arab culture, and definitely many would love to support. Is it sponsorship you're searching for, or probably, I don't know, who would fund or who would support or who would see benefit in being part of what you're doing?
Well, the nice thing about it in 501c3 is that there are many avenues where somebody can come and support. Whether they give of their time, whether they connect us with people, whether they can donate and they get a tax write-off based off that donation. Right now, the orchestra has grown leaps and bounds from where we started. But we're at a point where we need more financial support from the community. That's really where we're at. We need the community to take this organization and understand that this is an institution for the next generation and the next generation after that. This is an avenue for us to efficiently preserve our culture. And we can't do that without the community's backing. It's a little bit hard for us to make the case to go to non-Arabs to support this culture if they don't see our own people really support it in the way. And we have wonderful supporters within Detroit and the Houston community, but we need to expand that now.
I'm tired. I'm tired of believing that I don't belong, and that I was never meant to sing this song, and that a voice like mine would never be heard.
Have you created music on the music platform where people can listen to what you do and you get returns of it?
We have YouTube. Unfortunately, the issue of copyright in the Arab world is a very gray area. So it's not a very lucrative avenue. But it does wonders in getting the orchestra's name out there. So if we had like a fully fledged marketing team, that could be amped up. We have the product, we have the tools, and we have the means to create whatever is needed for the community. We just need the resources.
Help is needed to continue doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
To protect and promote Arab heritage.
Absolutely.
Tell me about you. Have you ever produced something of your own?
I'm in a unique position as an artist. Now that I have my own orchestra, anytime I write a piece, I can just say, hey, let's just do this. So one of the last compositions I did was a piece about immigration. We did it at UMS in Hill Auditorium, and I took writings from Arab American students, and they wrote about their immigrant experience. And I just picked for little phrases. We had that read throughout the piece, and the choir, we had a 100-piece choir from the UMS Choral Union. Throughout the piece, they were singing phrases from the poem of the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. But the text would show like the difficulty, you know, like the first phrase was about how they didn't want to leave their homeland and they were scared. And the next phrase was about how they're upset because they feel like they don't belong. Well, it's no secret in this country, if you come from a different place, you're going to have, you're going to experience a little bit of pushback. And that really stems from people not knowing who you are, you know. That's really what all fear and ignorance stems from, is just not knowing. When people get to know you, it becomes easier, and then they get to become closer. That's why we do what we do, you know. They get to know the culture through the music, and then there's less friction between communities.
when will Michael publish an album of his own?
The minute I can get funding for that.
Tell me more about it. Let's throw the word out there. I definitely know what you can do, and definitely seeing it out there is something phenomenal and add on to the world. We've heard of big artists. Probably Yanni has done lots of things at the Acropolis and back and many other places. Raoul de Blasio have created something great. The London Philharmonic Orchestra is definitely known. Scorpion has done a philharmonic work with them, the Queen, and so on and so forth. So why not us? And you're probably one of the persons that can lead the way to create an Arab amazing masterpiece. So what's needed for you to create your own album that can be on iTunes and on all the music platforms next year?
Well, I have everything pretty much in place except for the funding. I have a great producer out in LA. She's Lebanese, and she worked on Simon Shaheen's Blue Flame album. I have the music all well written and ready to go, and I can get the musicians and the ensembles. All I need to do is go in the studio. But what I really need is the funds to do that. And unfortunately, at being an artist, I don't have the savvy to be able to go and chase after grants. I've really kept my focus on my art, and the NAO is an institution that I'm not able to self-fund like a lot of other artists that are really great at working in the freelance world. They can file for grants, they can do these things, but so I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage. And because my album is written for chamber orchestra and a few Arab instruments here and there, which is really what's unique about it, is that you have this Western setting, but you have this Arab vibe and this Arab feel and this theme with poetry that's involved in there. Like all my music is inspired by love poetry. So I'm a romantic at heart. بحب من قلبي شو بدك.
Tell me, what's the greatest concert you've done?
That's hard. كتير صعب. 15 years worth of work, there's so many great memories. If I had to pick, I'd say there are two experiences. The concert we did in Saudi Arabia مع ماي فاروق، هيدي كانت من أعظم الحفلات اللي عملتها. It was the first time I actually got to take my work and do it in the Arab world, which was like a big deal for me. والأصداء الحفلة كانت حلوة والتفاعل الناس وهيك. I mean, and that's where people got to know me by my red shoes and my clapping, you know.
Tell me about Lebanon.
لبنان ما في مثل لبنان خيي. ما في.
So you visited Lebanon lately, not at your early ages.
أول ما تعرفت على خطيبتي من شي سنتين، قعدت تقريبا أسبوع بلبنان. قاعد رايح عند السوسي، شي عند بربر، شي عند خليفة، شي بالضي، شي بالزلقة. يعني حبيت بجن لبنان. بس آخر مرة that's when I got to see the pain. It was the first time I ever walked through the streets of Beirut and I saw it empty. And يعني الوضع بيحزن، يعني بيخليك تفكر يعني إنه لوين بدنا نوصل. How long are we going to be able to, as a people, hold on to our identity in that part of the world, which is really sad. I mean, I'm talking about a group of indigenous people who are in danger of losing their identity. That's a catastrophe in itself.
This is probably where music comes in and goes into the ears of 8 billion people around the world without even having to go on the news and say political things, just letting them hear what we feel.
Well, it comes from a strategic standpoint. Let's say you're in an argument with your wife, okay? And in the midst of that argument, you say something that's going to be يعني عم تنكزها. Or she tells you her issues and you say, okay, يعني you brush it off. يعني okay خلص يعني ضبيها. You're never going to be done with that conflict. It's مستحيل, because you're ignoring the hurt of that person. If through the arts you're able to say what you want to say without hurting anyone. You're able to unbiasedly showcase the culture because it's pure. this is who we are. تفضل مثل أكل الكبة نية يعني إنه خلص هي كبة نية عبساط الريح غمز وكون. Same thing with music. اقعد اسمع. ما في شيء مطلوب أكتر من هيك. And that simplicity is the shortest distance between you and your neighbor. That's why it's so powerful.
What's your biggest dream?
I'm living it. خيي. I just want to see it grow and become a fixture so that somebody after me can come and do something else.
Amazing. What's your next concert? Let's promote it. Where can people watch you, travel to you? What can we do? Where are you next?
Well, the next show we have in our 16th season, we just قطعنا ال 15.
Hi, مبروك.
الله يبارك فيك. We have November 9 downtown Detroit. We have a great singer, Amir Dandan, is going to be there. And we have a singer from Houston. She went through our mentorship program, Command. Aside from being a platform for the culture, we're a platform for Arab American artists so that they get to showcase their talent. And this is a soft spot for me because I know it was hard for me to come up and get into this business. ما كان حدا يساعدني يعني بتعرف إنه ما حدا صعب العربي يساعد الثاني يعني أحيانا. But we like to be that platform for up and coming people. So we got November 9 and we're still working out a few details, Hake, but I know in April, Command in Dearborn, Michigan, April 27, we have a wonderful singer, Iman Abdul Ghani from Egypt, she's coming. So
Beautiful.
And if you want to know anything about the NAO, just go on YouTube page, National Arab Orchestra, go on to the Facebook page and our Instagram, and you can find all of our concerts posted there and all the latest videos that we have posted.
As promised, we're going to meet again. I'm going to attend one of your concerts soon. Probably not November, I'll be in Australia, but April I'll try to.
Wonderful.
And show the greatness behind it. It's not only about the 1 hour or 1 hour and a half that happens, but how much work, how much hard work, how many tickets, how many people, how many families, how many hours of long work. And hopefully one day you're going to be in the Sydney Opera probably, or in the Dubai Downtown Opera and all the greatest operas in the world, because Arab music deserves it.
Inshallah.
Thank you for having me.
Habibi, thank you.